say a little bit off the beaten path and go from Texas A&M Kellen Mond?
Not a bad guess, but it isn't right. The answer is Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask out of Florida, was a backup in high school, was a Heisman finalist this year, threw 68 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. We're talking a lot about quarterbacks today. That brings us back to Shefty. Shefty, give us some updates on teams with pressing quarterback situations, beginning with the Steelers. Adam.
Well, we've spent less time talking about the Steelers when their need at that position might be as significant as just about any teams in the league. Again, Ben Roethlisberger, we've seen Phillip Rivers retire from the game. We've seen Eli Manning retire from the game. He's the last man standing from that draft class. And unless they believe in Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges, then the Steelers have to begin to find somebody to replace Ben Roethlisberger. Is it in the draft? Is it Sam Darnold? What are they doing? And how about the Carolina Panthers, Greeny? They still have not addressed the quarterback position. We do know that the Panthers owner, David Tepper, is an enormous Deshaun Watson fan. Could the Panthers try to make a move there? Or are they going to be late to the party with where they're picking in the draft now that the 49ers have traded up? How does Matt Rule and the Panthers handle the quarterback question they want to have answered this upcoming offseason right now? There are no obvious answers. Carolina is an intriguing situation, as is New England. Yes, they re-signed Cam Newton. Yes, they signed him to a contract that was more like the one that would give them flexibility to make another quarterback move. There was some thought in the 49ers organization that perhaps the Patriots would have been interested in trading up to draft a quarterback like a Mac Jones. Maybe they sit where they are. Maybe they come up. Would they still be interested in Jimmy Garoppolo to make a push? The Patriots are one of those teams that continue to be monitored as it pertains to quarterbacks in this draft. Maybe it's finding one of those mid-round values like you outlined before in your extensive draft preparation, Greeny.
Oh, you know it. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. They've had experience doing that. So there are a million quarterback questions. One of the answers is going to be Justin Fields. Let's talk about him. He has the second best college QBR since that metric was developed in 2004. Only Tua Tagovailoa ever was higher. But if there's a complaint, he struggled under pressure, especially in 2020. His QBR fell by 80 points when pressured and by nearly 30 points against teams that finished the season ranked. The athleticism is off the charts. He ran an unofficial 4.44 at the 40 at his pro day, the only faster quarterback at the NFL Combine since 2006 was RG3. In his latest mock, you see that McShay has 5 quarterbacks going in the top 11. You can spin that any way you want with regards to Fields. He's a top 11 pick, which is still very high. Or you can say he's the 5th quarterback in this draft. So you can really look at that in either direction you want. Let's look at the tape. Dan Orlovsky. Let's look at what does the tape tell us about Justin Fields?
Well, one of the things that has been said about Justin Fields when it comes to his play is like he struggles to process, meaning he struggles to get to the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th progression. And my dispute for months has been that is not what the tape says. This is a perfect example of it. This play is known as a full progression read. Now, the full progression read you're going to have is a flat route, you're going to have a go route, you're going to have a deep cross, and then you're going to have what's known as a big post. Now, full progression reads matter because the coverage that the quarterback gets does not dictate who are we going to start on. It doesn't matter. We are always going to start on number 1, the flat route, and then we will go to 2, the go route, 3, that deep cross, and 4. Now, what is the coverage from Nebraska's defense? Now, it's quarter, half. That corner's got that cover 2 flat. That safety's got a half field. This safety's got a quarter field, and you've got a quarter field. Now, everyone really focus on this safety right here, because when he's got a quarter of the field, Dom can tell you he's going to have vision on that deep cross. And just watch how Justin Fields gets through this. 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. 2.5 seconds, he gets all the way backside and throws an absolute dime. But I want to show you exactly Justin Fields going through that progression. Again, reminder, you got the go route, the flat route. Here comes that deep cross, and we're going to have the big post on the outside. Let's really focus on Justin Fields' eyes going through his progressions and telling me he can't get to number 4. Now, here we go. There's 1. Look at, he's got his eyes here confirming, okay, is it really going to be cover 2 over there? Is my flat route not there? That corner's low, it's not there. Is my go route going to be there? Nope, no, that safety's high, it's not there. Not there. Now he comes back and he goes to what? I told you guys here was this cross, right? Now, what number did I tell you? 1, 2, 3. He is the 3rd progression in the read. And as Fields is staring there, he realizes, well, that safety's got eyes on that crosser. That's not there. Now, let me get to 4. Now, here comes 4, that big post. He's got vision on it there. Again, this is number 4 in the progression. Get to it find it, launch it downfield, make the absolute perfect throw, touchdown. So the question isn't Justin Fields, can he process, can he get to 3 or 4? Yes, when he's asked to. I'm not going to hold it against him because his coach is really good, and number 1, gets open a lot, and 2, he's got good receivers. When they get open, he throws it to them. Justin Fields is plenty good getting to 2, 3, and 4 in his progressions.
It's so well done, Dan. Thank you for that. And let me bring the crew in here because there's so much to talk about with him. And Mel, obviously, is the one that I want to hear from. But first, I want to try and get Dominique in here if I can. There we go. And Nick, there's been so much conversation around this player over the course of the last week or so. Just sitting back as you do, what do you take away from all of it?
I mean, first of all, I'm a little intimidated by Mel. His dramatic lighting makes him look like a Bond villain. I do not want him to get angry at me like he did at Dan earlier. So I agree with you, Mel. Before you say anything, I agree. And as for Justin Fields, the thing that I think is most stressful is we saw him being the only quarterback that it felt like that is plummeting while all the other quarterbacks are skyrocketing. And when I saw that happening last week, of course, red flags go up in my mind. So I go back and start to watch some more Mac Jones, some more Justin Fields. And I think the fairest criticism of Justin Fields is that offense is not really NFL-style plays, so they don't give him a lot of that stuff. The play that Dan just showed is absolutely an NFL concept that he showed the ability to get through. But the stressful part, I think, or frustrating part is there are just as many bad plays from these other 4 quarterbacks and just as many question marks of these other 4 quarterbacks as you have for Justin Fields. But it feels like right now that Justin Fields is getting all the criticism, and because of that, he's plummeting. And part of that may be just because the 49ers are moving up and people need reasons to justify them moving up to get Mac Jones. But it does feel like the criticism is uneven for Justin Fields and several of the other quarterbacks right now.
Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to go through here with Justin Fields. And they touched on the things. Dan O's touched on a lot of things. But I think when you look at falling, is that going to hurt your quarterback's chances? No, it's not going to hurt. Doesn't mean anything. Sometimes it motivates. Josh Allen, I thought, would go number 1 in the draft. I think he went around 7. 2 other quarterbacks went ahead of him. Justin Herbert went behind Joe Burrow and Tua. You think about where Ben Roethlisberger went. He fell behind Manning and Rivers when I thought he was the second best quarterback in that draft and would go equally as high as the other 2. Aaron Rodgers dropped into the 20s when 3 weeks before that draft, everybody thought he was going to go number 1 over Alex Smith. In terms of Justin Fields, and I'm going to go to Dan Orlovsky and say, Dan, you don't have to apologize for anything. I brought a lot to the table in terms of evaluations on quarterbacks in 43 years. I've been critical of some. And some of those quarterbacks I was critical of went number 1 in the draft, number 2 in the draft, number 3 in the draft. It didn't affect where they went. Teams are going to do their due diligence. They're going to make their decisions based on what their intel brings to that organization. Dano brought up what he heard by some teams. That's great. You bring that to the table. Then you put it out there. It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect where this kid goes in the draft. Teams are going to make that call and figure out, is it right? Is it not? Should it bother us? Should it not? Hey, there was a quarterback here in Baltimore. There were some questions about. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He had 10 really good years, okay? I didn't have to get up at 3 o'clock to do this show and still bring energy. I could have got up at 6:30. So everybody's different, and everybody grows and matures and develops and evolves once they're a professional. So like I say, for Dan, bring it. Bring any information you have, and don't worry about any criticisms out there. Teams are going to make that call ultimately.
Shefty, go ahead.
I appreciate that.
First of all, that's awesome, Mel. That is fantastic, and that is wisdom that only the godfather of the draft could provide, like Mel Kiper does. And that's really what this entire process leading up to the draft is. It is a process in which every prospect in this draft, especially the quarterbacks, are taken apart by every front office, and they're taken apart publicly in many cases. And so there are many things that are drawbacks on each of these quarterbacks. And in this particular case, Dan, you put out something on Justin Fields. There have been some other people that have had questions about him. That's the way it is. He's still going to be a high pick. He may not be quite as high as we thought initially when this process started, but he still has the chance to be a great quarterback in the league, and that will be entirely up to him. But great job by you, Mel. Great job.
Dominique, final word.
Oh, no, I mean, we don't have to turn this into a conversation on how to cover athletes, but I do think it's important, and Mel knows this being around draft analysis a long time. It's important to be aware of the context that surrounds the black quarterback. So I think that's what people were frustrated, and this is weird to have a conversation about Dan and not let Dan speak about it. But I think that was the frustrating part. That's the part that people felt frustrated about Dan, is that it kind of mirrored some of those tropes, whether it's true or not. Acknowledging that you're aware of them, I think is the most important part. And Dan and I have talked about all this stuff off air, where these conversations tend to happen.
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, Dom's right. For me personally, great learning lesson. I appreciate Mel's words a ton. I think at the end of the day, the great thing about sports is that the athlete has the opportunity to prove people right, prove people wrong, prove themselves right, or prove themselves wrong. And that's the reality with Justin Fields. That's the reality with Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, all these guys. They are going to have the opportunity when going to the NFL. That's all that matters, guys. When you go there, what you do with what you've been given, okay? And so Justin Fields is going to get drafted by a team, and he's going to have the opportunity to prove a lot of those people that drafted him right, or prove the people that said something about him or didn't think he could play wrong. And that is the most important thing, what you do when you get there.
And to bring it back, because none of these things happen in a vacuum, but Mel, someone like you will put